Hey everyone, welcome back to Record Rift, the channel where we dive into the weirdest, most bizarre moments in history. If you love stories about strange events and unlikely victories, you're in the right place. And today, we're talking about one of the most peculiar battles in history, the Great Emu War. Buckle up because things are about to get wild. In the early 1930s, Australia faced a challenge unlike any other. The country was struggling with the aftermath of the Great Depression, and farmers in Western Australia were already battling drought, crop failures, and the rising cost of living. But then came an enemy no one could have predicted: the emu. These big, flightless birds, standing up to 6 feet tall and weighing up to 130 pounds, started ravaging crops, causing chaos across the farmland. The emus were so numerous and destructive, farmers had no choice but to turn to the government for help. Enter the Australian military. In November 1932, the government decided to take matters into their own hands and send soldiers armed with machine guns to Western Australia. The mission? To defeat the emus and protect the crops. What followed was an absolute disaster. Led by Major G.P.W. Meredith, the soldiers were ready for action. But as it turns out, the emus were much harder to defeat than expected. The birds would scatter in all directions at high speed, making them incredibly difficult to hit. Even with the soldiers' powerful machine guns, the emus seemed to have the upper hand. Despite their best efforts, the soldiers found that only a small number of emus were actually taken down. And with the birds constantly on the move, the soldiers were only able to kill around 1,000 emus, far fewer than they had hoped. Even worse, the emus seemed to learn from their mistakes. Whenever the soldiers approached, the birds would scatter into smaller, faster groups, outwitting the troops every time. It was a complete embarrassment for the military. As the weeks went by, the Australian press had a field day. Headlines like the Great Emu War and Soldiers vs. Birds mocked the military's failed efforts. The soldiers finally retreated, and the emus? Well, they were still in charge. The emu invasion continued, but eventually, the government took a different approach. By the end of the year, a more humane solution was put into place, and the emus were gradually kept in check without military intervention. So, what do we take away from the Great Emu War? Well, it's a reminder that sometimes, nature has a way of surprising us, and even the best-laid plans can go hilariously wrong. And if you're ever in Australia, watch out for those emus. They're tougher than you think. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this strange slice of history, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an episode of Record Rift. And let us know in the comments, what other bizarre historical events do you want to hear about next? See you next time!